Hi there, don't forget to click subscribe. This post was first published on creepypasta.org. BU user Zaju whispers in Ward 13 Part 1. Why did I choose this job? Vanessa wondered. She never wanted to work with people, especially not in mental hospitals. She had always preferred remote work, but for now, this job would do. She handled both day and night shifts because no one else wanted to work with these individuals. She understood why. But who was she to judge? Besides, it was the only way to reduce her sentence. All she needed to do was pass out medication and keep an eye on them. How hard could that be? She did her daily rounds, checking on patients, distributing their meds, and ensuring they were fed. It wasn't the hardest job, and interacting with most of them was actually enjoyable. Her heart ached for the children here. But there was one boy who never spoke to anyone and was always alone. He intrigued her deeply. Out of all the patients, he was the most well-groomed. His black hair, nearly shoulder length, was always neatly combed. He kept his room tidy and followed a consistent daily schedule. He was her favorite, though she couldn't pinpoint why. He made her job easier. Despite her attempts to strike up a conversation, he remained uninterested. She had always wondered about his scars, but asking would be too invasive. So, she just observed him from afar. He generally stayed to himself throughout the day. He had a little diary, a gift from his foster parents on his 14th birthday. Initially, he seemed uninterested, but he'd been consistently writing in it for the 3 years she had worked here. He appeared to be a nice kid, but also very lonely. When he was around the other kids, he often ignored them, and he even ignored his own siblings when they visited. She had never met someone so self-isolated. But who was she to judge? She just worked here. The next day, she followed her usual schedule. She did her rounds, gave out meds, talked to the patients, and ensured they had eaten their meals. She stopped in front of his room, the last one. She decided to try talking to him. She wasn't sure why she felt nervous. He was only 17. What could a kid do to her? He seemed harmless. She walked into his room, slowly closing the door behind her. "Vincent?" she called out. He was silent for a moment, then answered, "I'm awake." He slowly sat up in bed. "Here, your medication. Thank you." They stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she reluctantly opened her mouth. "So, tell me more about you. I don't know you well compared to everyone else. Tell me something interesting." "I'm 17. I have 2 sisters and 1 little brother." She was surprised he didn't ignore her question. "That's awesome. What about where you're from? Any friends?" He hesitated, and she could tell he didn't want to answer. She didn't want to force him. "You don't have to share if you don't want to. It's totally up to you." "No, it's fine. I'm from Serbia. I don't really have any friends. I'd rather be alone." She looked at him, puzzled. "But why? There are so many kids here around your age. I'm sure they'd love to be your friend." He paused. "I know, I just don't open up to people much. They bully me relentlessly. They're mostly all snobby, obnoxious kids. I despise them all. Dirty rugrats. If I could, I'd kill them all." Her eyes widened. "Okay, buddy, I think you should take your nap now." He smiled at her. "Thank you, Vanessa, for talking to me. Maybe I do need to socialize every now and then." She smiled back. "Of course. I'll always be here if you need someone to talk to." She was shocked she even got through that conversation. He had always shut out everyone. Nobody else working in this facility had ever gotten him to talk. Not even a word. But after talking to him, he seemed sweeter than she thought. A sweet kid who just needed friends and more people to socialize with. Maybe she could convince him to come eat in the dining hall. It'd be a good chance for him to make new friends. Who knows, maybe he'd meet someone he could depend on forever. She entered her room extra late that night, having spent time tucking in the younger kids and reading them stories. As she stepped in, she heard something creak. Fear gripped her. Should she scream? Investigate? She paused. Maybe she was imagining it all. She hadn't slept for over 2 days. Her floorboards creaked every now and then, too. She figured she was just overreacting from lack of sleep. Deciding to ignore it, she turned off the light and fell asleep. The door creaked open, and a hooded figure walked in. The figure caressed Vanessa, breathing heavily. It whispered slowly, "Vanessa, my love. Soon we can be together. Soon." It moved away from her resting place, closing the door gently behind it. Waking up the next morning, Vanessa got ready and followed her usual routine, but this time she had another conversation with Vincent. She opened his door and walked in. "Vincent, how are you?" The boy's eyes immediately fixated on her. "I'm okay now that you're here. How about today you come eat in the dining hall? You don't need to worry. I promise the other kids won't laugh at you. Plus, maybe you could make a new friend or two." He smiled slightly. "I don't need any other friends." He slowly looked up at her with a big smile. "I have you, don't I?" Vanessa was startled. His smile was eerie, a kind of smile she had never seen from a child. "Of course," she said shakily. "I'll always be your friend." Vincent paused, his eyes darting around the room before fixating on Vanessa again. "Vanessa, I have a question." "What's up, Vincent? Do you have a boyfriend?" Her face turned red, and she paused, answering shakily. No, I don't." "Why are you asking?" He smiled again, even wider this time. "No reason, I was just wondering. I'll join you in the hall soon." She smiled at him slightly. "Of course, can't wait to see you, Vinny." The dining hall was loud, children screaming everywhere. Vincent was annoyed, sitting next to the loudest kid of all. The kid started talking to him. Vincent, come play with us today." "No, leave me alone." Vincent. "You are a bad boy. Are you scared that I'll beat you? That I'll beat you just like your real dad? I'll beat you so bad you'll get PTSD again," Vincent snapped. He lunged on top of the boy, stabbing him repeatedly with a fork. The other children screamed and ran to find a supervisor. 2 security guards showed up, but Vincent's grip was too strong. He kept stabbing and stabbing. Vanessa and Vincent stared at each other blankly, neither saying a word. "What were you thinking? Why did you think that was a good idea? Tell me, what was your thought process during that?" The boy didn't reply. He slowly started to tear up. "I didn't mean to. I lost control. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I didn't mean to hurt him. I'm sorry." "Sorry won't fix anything, Vincent. You completely massacred his face. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad. I don't want you to hate me. I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed." Vanessa walked out of the room, leaving Vincent all alone. He stopped crying and had a mad expression on his face. "If you want to be that way, we can both play like that. Just watch." Vanessa returned to her room, heart heavy with the events of the day. She sat down on her bed, her mind racing. What if Vincent's words were more than just anger? She couldn't ignore the eerie feeling he gave her earlier, but she also couldn't shake the empathy she felt for him. She decided to report the incident to her supervisor, but she was careful to downplay her personal involvement, fearing it might complicate her situation. The following day, she tried to focus on her work, but Vincent's expression haunted her. She kept her interactions with him brief, maintaining a professional distance. She knew she had to be cautious, but part of her still wanted to help him. Days passed, and the atmosphere in the facility grew tense. Vincent was kept under closer watch, but his behavior was unpredictable. He refused to participate in group activities and remained isolated, his eyes often following Vanessa with an unsettling intensity. One evening, after finishing her rounds, Vanessa found a note slipped under her door. It was from Vincent. "Vanessa, I'm sorry for what happened. I need to talk to you. Please come to my room tonight. Vincent, she hesitated, her instincts warning her against going. But something in the note, a hint of desperation, tugged at her. She decided to inform a colleague about the note and ask them to check on her if she didn't return within 15 minutes. She approached Vincent's room cautiously. Taking a deep breath, she knocked and entered. Vincent was sitting on his bed, his diary open beside him. "Vanessa, thank you for coming," he said softly. She nodded, keeping her distance. "What did you want to talk about, Vincent?" "I've been thinking a lot. About what I did, about you, about everything." His voice was calm, too calm. "I know you want to help me. And I want to get better. I really do. But sometimes, I feel like there's no way out. There's always a way, Vincent. You just have to take the first step and let people help you." He looked at her with a mixture of hope and despair. "I'm scared, Vanessa. Scared of what I might do next. We're here to support you, Vincent. You're not alone in this." He nodded, but she could see the conflict in his eyes. "Promise me something, Vanessa. If I ever do something like that again, promise me you'll stop me." No matter what, she felt a chill run down her spine. "I promise, Vincent. But let's focus on getting you the help you need so it never comes to that." As she left his room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She vowed to keep a closer eye on Vincent and to do everything in her power to prevent another incident. But in the back of her mind, she knew that Vincent's struggle was far from over, and the real challenge was just beginning. As Vanessa left Vincent's room that night, a sense of unease settled over her. She couldn't shake the feeling that Vincent's demeanor had shifted, his words carrying an unsettling weight. That evening, as she lay in bed trying to sleep, she heard faint whispers echoing through the halls. Initially dismissing them as her imagination, she soon realized they were coming from outside her door.